Hi guys. So today you have all day to work on not all day, I guess. For math, all day. You have time to work on your study island goal that's due on Friday, which is the solving linear equations. So I'm going to show you a few different examples. So hopefully this will help. If you need any additional help, make sure that you are emailing me or texting me. We can always set up a Google Meet and I can show you some more examples, okay? So at this point, I'm just going to kind of pick and choose a few of them. So I'm going to start with question number 1 here. Okay, there are decimals, but that's okay. You guys know what to do. So first step, refer back to your notes on solving equations. First step is to check for the distributed property. Well, I don't have any parentheses, meaning I don't have any distributed property to take care of. Second, I need to combine like terms on each side. So if I look at each side of the equation, well, I can't combine like terms here because there aren't like terms. And on the other side, again, no like terms, so I can't do that step. Moving on. So next step is to go in reverse order of PEMDAS. So I have to deal with adding and subtracting first. Well, I'm going to choose to subtract the 4.65x. Okay, I'm going to have to subtract that from that 10x because those are the like terms. So when I go to subtract that, excuse me, on this side, this cancels, leaving me with just 100. Bring down my equal sign. I still have that 21.6225. And then 10x minus the 4.65x gives me a positive, so I need that plus sign, 5.35x. Okay, so now that x is on one side, I always start on that side, so I'm looking at the right-hand side right now. And I still have to take care of any addition or subtraction. So I have this positive 21.6225. So the inverse would be to subtract. And I got to keep things balanced, so I got to do it on this side too. Guys, just use your calculator because there's no point in you trying to figure this out and taking forever just to subtract something. So I have 100 minus 21.6225. And that's going to be 78.3775. Bring down my equal sign. This cancels, leaving me with the 5.35x. Okay, so again, any adding or subtracting needs to be taken care of. Well, I don't have any more, so I'm moving on to multiplying and dividing. So right now this is saying 5.35 times x, so the inverse would be to divide by 5.35. I don't want to divide by x because that's not going to get me anywhere. Okay, so I leave that x up there. Divide by 5.35 on both sides. So I'm going to take that 75.3775, divide that by 5.35. And that gives me 14.65 equals, I know that anything over itself gives me 1, so that leaves me with 1x or just x. And my solution is D. All right, moving on to this next one. So now, question number 2 tells you Brett is joining a new gym. He can join Power Plus or Heavy Hulk. At Power Plus, it will cost him $34.38 per month, plus a sign-up fee of $20. At Heavy Hulk, it will cost $34.63, and that's implying per month, right? Plus that sign-up fee of $32.50. Right now, Heavy Hulk is cutting their sign-up fee in half for new members. Ooh, okay, we need to keep that in mind. If Brett signs up at a gym today, after how many months will the cost of the memberships be the same? Okay, so that gave me a ton of information, and now my job is to kind of figure out what it's asking. So I always start with the question at the end. So notice I didn't underline anything yet because I'm not quite ready to start doing that. So if Brett signs up at a gym today, after how many months? Ooh, okay, when it says like how many months, that's part of what it's asking. So how many months will the cost be the same? Okay, same is a huge clue. When something's the same, it's set equal to each other, right? So I'm going to be setting something equal to each other. And when it says how many months, well, that's something we don't know. When we have an unknown, we use a variable. So I'm going to say that x is the number of months. Okay, so I'm just going to lay that out now. Now, I know that something has to be the same, so something has to be equal to each other, but it's talking about the memberships, right? So I have a Power Plus membership and I have a Heavy Hulk membership that I'm setting equal to each other, okay? So I'm going to think about each one of those kind of separately at first, and then I'll have my equation. So let's back up to where it's talking about Power Plus. So at Power Plus, it costs $34.38 per month. Okay, well, I don't know how many months. That's X, remember? So that's going to be 34.38 X, okay? Because you're paying that every month, but X just tells us we just don't know how many months right now, okay? Because that's what we're looking for. How many months will the membership be the same? So it also has a sign up fee of $20. All right. So it has a sign up fee of $20. Well, you're not paying that more than one time. That's just a one time thing. So that's just an additional $20. Okay, so it doesn't have an X attached because you're not paying it every month. Now I have to think about Heavy Hulk, but I have to keep this sign up fee is in half in mind. Okay, so right now it's going to cost $34.63 per month. So that's something that's going to be with that variable. So you have $34.63 because you're doing it multiple times. Okay, so that's why it's being multiplied by X. Now the sign up fee originally is that $32.50, but we need to take that in half. So I'm going to divide that by 2 in my calculator. And that sign up fee is no longer $32.50. It's actually $16.25. Okay, I had to keep that piece of information in mind. So that sign up fee is only happening one time. And with that new price, it's $16.25. Well, now I have an equation to solve. So all I have to do is think about, okay, I don't have distributed property. I can't combine like terms on either side. Now I'm just going to start with my reverse order of PEMDAS. So adding and subtracting first. So remember I have options. I'm going to choose to subtract 34.38x first. 34. Notice I have to line up those x values because those are the only like terms I have. So when I subtract that, I know this cancels, leaving me with 20 on this side equals, when I actually subtract this, that's going to be 5. It's going to be 13, so that's going to be 5. So it looks like it's going to be 0.25x, don't forget the x, plus 16.25 right now. All right, next step. So I got down to one x term, so I need to subtract this 16.25. Remember, I'm not ready to move on to multiplication or division yet. So subtract 16.25. When I do that, I'm going to have 375 here equals 0.25x. I know that canceled. So last step, now I don't have any more adding and subtracting. I'm moving on to that multiplication and division. So this is saying 0.25 times x, so I need to divide, keep things balanced. So when I type that in, 3.75 divided by 0.25, that gives me 15. I know anything over itself is just 1, so that's 1x or just x. So x is 15. So x represents months, right? So it's telling me in 15 months, it will cost exactly the same amount of money. So A is my solution here. All right, next one we're going to try is this question number 6. So you have fractions here, but you know how to work with those. You've been doing those the last 2 days. So remember, if I want to get rid of fractions, first, I always do distributive property first. But I don't have that, so I don't have to worry about it. Then I have to get rid of fractions if there are fractions. So since I have fractions, I look at the denominators. I have a 4 and I have a 9. Well, the least common denominator, 4 and 9. Remember, I can kind of count the multiples. So 18, that'd be 27, 36, so forth. And then 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, nothing uncommon yet, 28. Gonna keep going. 32, 36. Okay, 36 is the smallest number that they have in common. So that is what I'm going to be multiplying the entire equation by to get rid of those fractions, okay? So multiplying by 36, and since I'm dealing with a lot of fractions, I'm going to put it over 1. So this is where I can kind of go off to the side and say 7/4 times 36 over 1. So I'm going to use my simplifying method. Both of these can be divided by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 36 divided by 4 is 9. So when I multiply across, that gives me 63 over 1. So this leaves me with 63x. Okay, now I'm going to do, so I just did this one. I'm going to do 36 over 1 times negative 1/9. Again, I put it in the numerator. I don't want to put it in both, just the numerator when I have a negative like that. So I'm going to look at my cross products here. 36 and 9 can both be divided by 9. So 9 divided by 9 is 1. 36 divided by 9 is 4. So when I multiply across, 4 times negative 1 gives me negative 4 over 1, or just negative 4. So I have a minus 4. And then the last step is to do 36 times that 7x. Oh, got a little crazy there. So 36 times 7x, I don't know what that is off the top of my head. 36 times 7 gives me 252. X, don't forget that X. Okay, so now at this point, I don't have any fractions. I can just go ahead and solve. So first thing, I notice that I have X terms on either side of my equal sign. So I'm going to subtract 63x. Subtract 63x. Leaving me on this side with negative 4. Don't forget that negative. And then 252 minus the 63x gives me 189x. And lastly, I want to divide by 189 because this is really saying 189 times x, and I want to get x by itself. So divide by 189 because that's the inverse operation. And at this point, I know that this is x equals, leave this as a fraction, okay? You don't have to divide it out with your calculator. If there's fractions in the original problem, leave your solution as a fraction. Just simplify it if possible. And I can't simplify this, so my final solution is negative 4 over 189, or negative 4 189ths, okay? All right, at this point, we're going to do maybe a couple more. We'll see. All right, we're going to go on to this question number 14. So this one's telling us that one yard company charges $10x plus $50 a month to mow and edge a lawn. Second company charges 8x plus $60 a month to mow and edge a lawn. Each lawn company also offers additional services for an extra fee. Okay. Okay, so the next part says, let X represent the number of additional services. So let's keep that in mind. So X represents the number of additional services. And I already kind of gave you the different, like the 10x plus 50 and the 8x plus 60. Okay, so Mr. Mead is comparing the two companies. How many additional services? Okay, that's saying what is X, because X is additional services. So all this is saying is what is X for the two companies to be the what? The same price. So same means set equal to each other. Okay, so I'm just taking company 1, and that's 10x plus 50, and setting that equal to company 2 because I want them to be the same price. So I'm going to have 8x plus 60. You choose what you want to do next, but I'm going to subtract 8x from both sides. That leaves me with 2x plus 50 equals 60. And then I'm going to subtract 50. So I have 2x equals 10. Last step, divide by 2. So x would equal 10 divided by 2 is 5. So x is 5, meaning that the additional services is 5. All right, last one we're going to go through. So looking at this top one here where you see some fractions and some decimals and it looks like a really long equation, don't let that freak you out. You guys got this. So here's what I recommend. I recommend when you have decimals and fractions within an equation to get them all to be fractions or all to be decimals. And I choose to work with decimals instead of fractions, but you do you. So here we go. So I'm going to change this 1/5 and I'm going to convert that. So I'm going to take 1 divided by 5 as a decimal. If you want to just use your calculator, that's fine too, but that's going to give you 0.2. So this is really saying, I'm going to run out of room here. This is saying 0.2 times x plus 0.5 plus 5.24 equals, okay, the next fraction, 3/2. Again, I could take 3 divided by 2 in my calculator, and that's going to give me 1.5 x, don't forget the x that was attached to it, plus, well, 7/10 I know is 0.7 as a decimal, times x plus 2.2. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of a long one, but use those 4 steps that we've been using this entire time. So now that they're all decimals, I can start with 1, the distributive property. So I'm going to take 0.2 times x, that gives me 0.2x. 0.2 times a positive 0.5, I know it's going to be positive, so I'm going to put that plus there. And that's going to give me 0.1. Still have that plus 5.25. 24. I'm going to bring down equals, and I still have a distributive, so I took care of this distributive property here, but I need to take care of this one over here as well. So I'm going to take 0.7 times x, but before I do that, I'm going to bring down this 1.5x just so I don't forget, because I'm not using it right now. So now I'm going to take this, I'm going to actually take care of this distributive property. So I have a positive 0.7 times x, so that's a positive 0.7x. And then I have a positive 0.7 times a positive 2.2, and that is going to give me, I'm using my calculator, so feel free to use yours, a positive, obviously, 1.54. Okay, so I've taken care of all of my distributive property. Next is to combine like terms. So that's where I go to each side. So I'm looking at my left-hand side, and I have a positive 0.1 and a positive 5.24. Well, I'm not using that 0.2x, so I'm just going to bring that down, but I'm going to combine these two like terms. So that's going to give me a positive 5.34. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. So I'm looking for like terms on the right side, and I see that I have two x values. So I'm going to combine those, and that's going to give me 2.2x, and I still have that plus 1.54. Okay, so I've taken care of distributive property, taken care of combining like terms. Well, now I just need to go inverse operation or inverse order of PEMDAS. So I'm starting with adding and subtracting. So I'm going to choose to subtract this 0.2x first. I tend to like to get my x values together right away. So on this side, I'm left with 5.34 equals, well, when I subtract that, that leaves me with 2x. Bring down that plus 1.54. Again, I still have more adding and subtracting to do, so I'm going to look on the side with my x value. So I'm looking at the right-hand side of my equation. I'm subtracting 1.54. Subtracting 1.54. That leaves me with no room. Okay, I'm going over here. So on the left-hand side, so the 5.34 minus 1.54 is going to be 3.8. Again, I'm just coming up here because I'm running out of room. And then that equals, well, I know the 1.54's cancel, leaving me with 2x on that side. And the last step is to divide by 2 because that's the inverse operation. So 3.8 divided by 2 gives me 1.9 as x. Okay, so for this one, the directions told me to use numerals, okay? If necessary, use a fraction bar. So we have to use that slash. Well, I don't have a fraction, and that's okay, but I need to convert that into a fraction. So remember, if you can read a decimal, you can write a fraction. So I would read this correctly like 1 and 9/10, okay? So 1 whole and 9/10, okay? But whenever you have a mixed number, so like this 1 whole and a fraction that's a mixed number, it's not going to let you type in like 1 space 9/10. You're going to have to convert that into an improper fraction. So I always think of like, okay, 1 whole is really 10/10. Okay, so if I cross that out, I could have 10/10. And if I combine those, that's going to give me a total of 19/10. So this is what I'd have to type in to that box there. Okay, it would be 19/10. Okay. So I say 19/10, but I just scrolled down and it looks like Study Island would take 1.9. So either way is okay. So since there's a fraction and a decimal within the same problem up here in the original, you can either type in a decimal or a fraction, and that's the same way like come quiz or test time for me. Okay, so if it only had fractions to begin with, I would want a fraction solution. But if it only had decimals, I'd want a decimal solution. But since there's both, just do whatever your little heart desires, okay? Um, Other than that, those are just a few examples. Let me know if you have questions because some of these can be kind of challenging, but you can do it, okay? You got this. Remember, you're spending about 60-ish minutes a day on math, all right? Good luck.